Hey guys, it's me again, Orc What Ifs. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. Where we last left on What If Deku was Killer Croc. Sludge was able to get the three groups, or at least the leaders of the three groups, such as Chizaki, Metal Liberation Army with Redestro, Chizaki with Overhaul, and then he was able to get Shigaraki and them, the League of Villains, with the attack team that they would use in the summer camp arc. Sorry, took me a second. Sludge was able to gather them because he has a respectable amount of hold in a certain area of like cities. He was able to gather a large group together and actually get them to cooperate. Gang Orca got the information from Sludge and understood that they could actually set up what you could mount to like a sting operation. So Sludge called forward every one of those villain groups. He got the leaders, Chizaki or Overhaul, Redestro, and Chizaki, with a bodyguard group that comes with them. Overhaul brought the bullets. Shigaraki brought the Terror Squad. Not Terror Squad. The Vanguard group, and Redestro just brought a group of his own subordinates. If there are some named characters, I'm sorry, it's just that I forgot their name, and I haven't watched a new season yet, but I know about him, and his thing is that it turns his stress into power. Where I last left off, essentially, okay, Sludge has lost an eye because Shigaraki disintegrated it. Deku has taken care of Redestro as well as Chizaki by finishing him off in his own style. And Chizaki and them were teleported away by Kurogiri, thanks to Toga and I believe it was Dabi, or Twice. Those two worked together to set Kurogiri free. And Kurogiri was ordered by All For One to bring him as well as Gigantomachia to come down and fight Deku and All Might. Deku is facing off with Gigantomachia at this moment, while All For One and All Might are fighting. The cops and all those other heroes have essentially evacuated this area, while Deku is going toe to toe with Gigantomachia. It's sort of like a Kratos versus... well, not Kratos. I would say a real, as they would call it, like a monster slugfest. As you got Deku roaring like Godzilla, and you got Gigantomachia using his quirks, which I remember he has 7. Dog, Endurance, Mole... man, it's hard for me to remember. Come on. Tracking, I believe. Which is that he can find anyone. I forget all his quirks, but essentially the main ones that we're going to focus on is Mole, because he can dig underground, and he has giant massive claws that come with that. So it's essentially what you could amass to a giant saw cutting down entire forests versus Deku, a blizzard essentially, as he hops around and uses One for All to jump around and smash into Gigantomachia. As you can just see shockwaves coming off him as he's like bam, bam, bam. As Deku, from what Deku can tell, it's somewhat hurting him, but it isn't doing a whole heap ton of damage like it has done to all those others that come before. As then you got off in distance, you got All Might and All For One clashing it out, with All For One using what remains of One For All to fight against him at full power. All For One is taunting him as he typically was, like, "You've grown so weak, All Might. After I finish with you, I think I'll squash that successor of yours." That is, of course, if Gigantomachia doesn't do it for me. As All Might says, that won't happen. Young Deku is... Or, yeah, I'll just say young Deku for this case. Young Deku is far superior to me in this case. As he blasts All For One with another, like, powerful punch as All For One meets it. As you got Gigantomachia and Deku somewhat talking during their fights, Gigantomachia says, Master wants you to die! As he slices with those massive claws and throws boulder after boulder at Deku as he somewhat like grips his claw to the ground and throws massive chunks at him. Deku's hopping around as he sort of jumps forward and smashes Gigantomachia in the face where that plate is sort of resting. If I remember, he has a giant plate when he activates that quirk. It smashes and cracks it as Gigantomachia quickly sort of swipes away at his face, sending Deku flying through the trees. Deku's just like, well, your master will be disappointed, whatever you are. It doesn't matter, though. Even if I have to get through you, I will get to him and smash him down like any other bug. As he's just like, bug? Why am I calling him a bug? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, that Bakugo. He's having a bad influence on me. As he grabs a tree and throws it straight at Gigantomachia. These fights are going back and forth, till eventually they are able to somewhat corral themselves back closer together. As you get Deku, as he slams down on Gigantomachia, as Machia falls straight to the ground, Deku goes to grab a leg and just sort of swings and throws him. Also, I remember one of the other quirks. Gigantification is one of the other quirks. So that's 6, I believe I have. Endure, Track, Dog, Mole, Gigantification. That's 5. Mole, Dog, Track, Endure, Endurance, Gigantification. There's one that actually allows him to not have to sleep as much. So that's 6. I'm missing one of them. Sorry about that, though. I think one's Harden, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. I believe that is Harden. I think that's the 7 quirks. But anyways, I'm sorry for delaying. As we got Deku fighting it out with Gigantomachia, he slams him down on the ground and grabs him by the leg. As he starts spinning him around, he's just like, you're quite strong, but I'm stronger. As he whirls him around, throwing him like over like 100 meters away. As it's a very slow, as he crashes down, he rolls into the area where All Might and All For One are duking it out. All Might is withering away at this point as he's just like, I can't hold it much longer. As he jumps away, getting a bit of distance between him and between him and the two villains. Deku arrives as he slams into the ground as he's just like, you ain't looking so good, All Might. He's just like, speak for yourself, young Midoriya. I feel like I'm in my prime still. As All Might sort of like coughs at that little joke. As we get to look at each group, Gigantomachia has cuts on him, gash wounds, and like where it looks like actually one of his eyes is somewhat bleeding where Deku hit him in the skull. As he gets back up and he's just panting, he's just like, little lizard, harder to kill. As you can also look over Deku where he actually has a slash mark where Deku had gotten too close and tried to jump away. Gigantomachia has used his claws and just barely missed as he has 2 massive scars running across down his body now. As Deku's just like, you ain't bad yourself, you giant freak. As All For One's just like somewhat starts clapping, he's like, well done. Well done. This fight has truly been impressive. Such a shame Tomura couldn't be here to witness it. But All Might, you and I seem quite tired, doesn't it? We're just two old men. As All For One says, Gigantomachia. He's like, huh? As he's like, come here. And it's just like, yes. As he calls for Kurogiri to come forth. As he just says, oh, tell Shigaraki, you are to obey Shigaraki from now on. Am I understood? He's like, but master. Just like, that's an order. So, yes, master. Kurogiri, take Gigantomachia away. Gigantomachia is teleported away. You get All Might, who actually fully debuffs at this point. He's just like, I'm sorry, young Midoriya, but I can't hold it together any longer. Just like, don't worry, All Might, as he sort of pats him on the shoulder. You don't have to work so hard now. As All Might looks up at him, like, huh? Cause I am here. As Deku's just like, yeah, that catchphrase isn't for me. As All Might's just like, well, it is my catchphrase, young Midoriya. Or young Deku. He's just like, yeah. As he cracks his neck. Let's end this how it's always meant to be ended, All For One. See, unlike All Might, I'll ensure you're down for good. She's like, oh, is that quite right, young successor? Last time I checked, heroes don't kill. Neither would one of you, or like you, considering of your beliefs. As Deku says, sometimes we must stain our hands. Sometimes we must stain our hands with the blood of the wicked to ensure those who have come before, and those who will come after us may never be touched by you. It's just like, before, it's just like, I have a feeling all those that have died by your hands or had their quirks stripped away, turned into a mindless Nomu. I'm pretty sure all of them would want some recompense. As All For One gives like a laugh, as he gives an evil, wicked laugh that goes into the air, he's just like, you're quite different than All Might here. You have a view of the world that not even I've seen in any other wielder before, as far as I can remember. I may have killed one before now that I think about it, but it doesn't matter. All of them were too focused on the present, but you look to the past and future. As Deku takes a nods, he's like, you're quite right. But it is quite late. And it's time to put an old legend to rest. And he's like, oh, a legend. Man, I should feel not admired, no. I shall feel honor becoming that from you. He's just like, I won't deny your status on history, even if it isn't written in history books. Your scars will remain here forever. Your legacy, unfortunately, would most likely live on. It's just like, oh, and why do you say that? You are essentially the boogeyman of the underground. You've made a myth, and like I said, a legend appear around you. But that's all you'll be. A legend and a myth after this night. As Deku charges Deku charges one for all throughout his body at 100%. He says it is time for this to end. As All For One just like as he lets the All Might killing weapon out of his arm, he's just like, you're right, young one. So let's see. If the inferno has all for one that flows through you, let's see if you can actually match me this day. No, surpass. As he starts charging at Deku, Deku does the same as he's like, leave here, All Might. As Deku charges forward and smashes his fist and it collides with All for One. As All for One uses the recoil, the shock recoil, as it implodes on Deku's arm, as Deku can feel his bones break and crack inside his arm. He's just like, damn, thank God All Might didn't have to go through this. As he's being forced back, Deku stomps his foot back and lets it stop. He's just like, you are quite powerful, All for One, but I refuse to let you go past this day. As he lets that arm go back, as All for One has that punch go straight flying past him, as Deku punches him right in the liver. As Deku feels that connection, he pushes it as he gets in close, as close as he can get, as he sort of ducks underneath that arm and bites into that side as well and rips out a chunk. All for One feels it and sort of tries to blast Deku away with an air cannon. Deku rolls from it and he's just like as he's on all fours at this moment, he's just like, so, defeat the big bad boogeyman of the underground. What, are you going animalistic on me, successor? As Deku just says, you're a monster, All for One. I've acknowledged that. We've all acknowledged that. As they say, the only way to defeat a monster is with another monster. It's like, oh, you're not claiming the title of hero or the great savior destined to kill me. Deku says, if you look at me, you know I couldn't claim that title even if I wanted to. I'm not All Might, with his gorgeous locks flying in the wind. His All for One gives a laugh. He's just like, I always did find that persona of his quite annoying, possibly infuriating, how claims of plus go beyond plus ultra. Such a dumb quote, if you'll ask me. As Deku says, think what you want, you boogeyman. As he gets on all fours, as he launches himself forward, flying through the air somewhat like a graceful bullet, as he barrels into All for One at blinding speeds, as All for One can feel cracks going up his ribcage. He's just like, as he feels it inside, he's like, eternal bleeding. That won't help. As his healing quirks try to activate, as some of them try to activate, but if I remember, All for One has somewhat of a limit. I'm gonna make him have a limit. Just to make it somewhat fair, is that he only has a certain amount of quirks he can use at a time. I was gonna say he's using a minor healing quirk at the moment to try and stitch up the internal bleeding that's going on. As Deku and him go on that... Oh, God, my shoulder. Sorry. Shoulder's killing me. As Deku and him are crashing through trees, rubble, and dirt, he and Deku somewhat look into each other's eyes as Deku comes face to face with that black mask. As an All for One can see Deku's eyes growing a pure yellow almost. As Deku just says, sorry. Let's end this, you boogeyman. As All for One's just like, do you even have the guts, you crocodile? Deku and him rolling on the ground, Deku throws him into the ground and stops himself from continuously falling or flying by digging his hands into the ground as he rushes back. All For One meets him with another of those All Might destroying punches, as Deku has to switch to the other arm lest he actually hurt his right arm too severely. As he does the same thing, shock, recoil. As Deku can feel it going through his arm again, he's just like, oh, this sucks. As he sees the chance, as he goes around and bites onto the arm that the All Might weapon is connected to, as Deku feels it, digs as far as he can, crunches down hard, and somewhat tries to roll as he pops that arm out of the socket with a lips are dry, like a, as it makes that perfect popping sound, as All For One's just like, ah, as he actually lets out like screams of pain and anguish. As he's clutching that stump, he's just like, well done, brat. As he stands up off the ground after trying to recuperate, he takes a quirk that's like sort of like a flame hand as he grabs onto the stump and burns it shut. He's like, you're gonna regret this day. And he's like, maybe, but not yet. Moves forward as All For One tries to summon that All Might destroying arm again, but this time Deku just kicks him on the knee, causing it to go backward. Deku then goes behind him, throws him on the ground, and smashes his head into the ground. As he grabs onto the back of it and bashes and bashes until eventually he feels that mat crack and break underneath that stress. All For One's just like, damn it. This kid's a lot stronger than I always thought he was. Goes to sort of listen himself, but Deku turns him around and just starts pounding. Deku takes his claws and tears into All For One's chest as he rips all away the suit and shoves his hand down as he can reaches down past the lungs and grabs onto his spine. All For One takes a moment as he straightens up. He's just like, as he turns his head to metaphorically look Deku in his eyes. He's just like, look at me. Tomura's gonna kill you. Same thing with Gigantomachia. Deku says, they can try, and I'll be waiting for them. As he reaches down and takes his mouth and bites straight down on All For One's head, as he clamps down and splatters everywhere, as then he also rips out what he had grabbed hold of. As Deku does that, you can see where he's been punched. There's blood gushing down his arms, where his skin split, and somewhat, if I remember, I said he had somewhat of a healing factor, as it's trying to get them to coagulate and close up. As Deku just falls to his knees, as he's just like, damn, today's been a long day. As he goes to stand up, he's just like, and falls back down, as he's just like, hopefully the rest of them can get here. As he takes up a stand, as he grabs onto the leg of All For One and just starts dragging it. But not so far away, there's a black and purple portal opening up. As you can see, a blue-haired boy, as well as Kurogiri, or, well, I'll just say Shigaraki and Kurogiri, appear as they find All For One's discarded arm. As then they look Deku carrying away the bloody and broken body of All For One. Shigaraki wants to rush over there and tear Deku apart, but he knows that he's nowhere near the strength level to do it. So he simply tells Kurogiri, to take Master Sensei's arm, and that they'll be back later. Deku turns his head and makes eye contact with Shigaraki. As Shigaraki's just like, they just have a glare down. as Deku just lets off a roar in his direction, and then Shigaraki and Kurogiri disappear. Deku drags All For One's body back to the base camp that everyone has set up, and says essentially, All For One's dead, as he throws a corpse in front of them, as it's just like, young Midoriya, you didn't have to. It's just like, you did it before, All Might. He had to go. And he says, I'm gonna go rest for a while. As Deku gets to where Recovery Girl is and just falls down one of the beds. As he goes off to Dreamland, he's just like, I hope I haven't made a terrible mistake. Come on, go away. Sorry. Sorry about that. Got a lot of notifications that popped up. I was trying to clear them. As that has happened, Deku just makes somewhat a quick rest, as he's just like, let's see what is held in store for us. As he closes his eyes and rests his head. And that's where I'm going to be ending this one off at. So, I'm going to let the series rest for a bit, because I actually have some interesting ideas where I want to take this fan fiction, the story, and I just need a little bit of time to come up with it. For now, I will be going back and finishing off some of the old series I have, such as What If Deku Was a Lamenter. I gotta finish What If Bell Was the Fume Knight, or Rame. What If Issei had the Chaos Flame? That one, I'm gonna end off after a certain point. I don't know which point. I would say after maybe the Cyber Ward arc, but I'll most likely end that off and take a break from that sooner, because I got a backlog of other what ifs that I gotta do. Some of you have been asking for new what ifs, that I do appreciate the new ideas, and I'm gonna pull from my box. I have a box that I pull from for those of you that are new, and we'll see what that one comes up with. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys... Would you guys like me to start putting gameplay back into my videos? Like, I'll record gameplay of me playing a game, and then I'll let you guys watch that as I talk about the story. It's completely up to you if you want it, but I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys continue to enjoy this, and I hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice life.